The Jareth had a name for the moment they arrived at a new system. They called it the claiming, a word that carried weight in their language beyond its literal meaning. The way certain words in certain languages accumulated centuries of use until they meant not just the thing they described, but everything that had ever happened in the context of that thing. The claiming was arrival. It was assessment. It was the moment when the Jareth looked at what was in front of them and decided what it would become. They had performed the claiming 411 times, 411 systems, 411 civilizations at various stages of development, from pre-industrial to early spaceflight to, in 3 cases, civilizations that had achieved interstellar travel and still lost. Because achieving interstellar travel and being prepared for the Jareth were 2 different things, and no civilization had ever been prepared for the Jareth, because the Jareth did not announce themselves and did not negotiate and did not give anyone time to prepare. They arrived, they assessed, they claimed. The entire process, from first sensor contact to completed subjugation, had never taken more than 72 hours. High Commander Sarath had overseen 61 claimings personally. She was the most decorated officer in Jareth history. She had a reputation that her subordinates discussed in tones that were technically respectful and actually something closer to reverent. Because she had never lost a claiming, had never required more than 48 hours, and had twice completed the process in under 6. She looked at the Sol system on her tactical display and felt, for the first time in 61 claimings, something she did not immediately have a name for. It was not concern. She was certain of that. It was something smaller and stranger, a quality of attention that the system was demanding that other systems had not demanded. A sense that there was something in the data that she had not finished reading yet. She looked at it for 4 minutes, which was 3 minutes and 40 seconds longer than she usually looked before giving the approach order. Then, she gave the approach order. She told herself the 4 minutes meant nothing. She was wrong. The first anomaly appeared 11 hours into the approach. It was small. Her sensor officer flagged it with the careful precision of someone who had learned that small anomalies in approaching systems sometimes became large problems and that the High Commander preferred to know about potential problems before they became actual ones. Commander, he said, I'm reading energy signatures on the approach vector. Weapons? She said immediately. No, not weapons. He paused. Observation platforms. Passive sensors. They knew our approach vector before we established it. Sarath looked at the data. How long have they been there? The platforms appear to have been in place for approximately... He stopped. Commander, the platforms appear to have been in place for approximately 9 years. The bridge was quiet. 9 years. The Jareth had been in this region of space for 11 hours. The platforms had been in place for 9 years, which meant humanity had known 9 years ago that something was coming from this direction, had known with enough precision to place observation platforms on the correct approach vector, and had said nothing, had simply watched, had waited 9 years for the thing they had known was coming. Continue approach, Sarath said. Her voice was level. Full sensor sweep. I want everything. What the full sensor sweep produced over the next 3 hours did not change her decision to proceed. The Jareth had faced more capable civilizations than the data suggested humanity to be, and had prevailed. But it changed the quality of her attention in a way she could not fully account for. The way certain pieces of music changed the quality of attention without being able to say precisely why. Humanity had 47 warships. This was consistent with what the preliminary data had suggested. What was not consistent was their positioning, distributed across the system in a pattern that her tactical officer spent 90 minutes analyzing before concluding that the pattern was not a defensive formation in any standard sense. What is it? She asked. It's a web, he said slowly. Each ship is positioned to cover the blind spots of 3 others. There are no gaps. No matter what approach vector we use, we enter coverage range before we reach effective weapon range. He looked up. Commander, this formation assumes we would find the approach vector they prepared for. It assumes we would approach from this direction, because they knew we would, she said. Yes, because they've been watching us for 9 years. Yes. Sarath looked at the formation for a long time. How long have they been in these positions? She asked. He checked. Approximately 4 months, she sat back. 9 years of watching, 4 months of positioning. The preparation had been completed 4 months ago. They had known not just the direction but the timing, had predicted 4 months in advance, when the Jareth fleet would arrive, and had been ready and waiting since then. Open a channel, she said. Her communications officer looked at her. In 61 claimings, she had never opened a channel before the claiming was complete. The channel came after, terms, timeline, the logistics of transition. Not before. Open a channel, she said again. The human who answered was a woman in her 60s, white-haired, sitting in what appeared to be a command center rather than a bridge, a large room with many stations and many people moving, with the focused efficiency of an organization. In the middle of something complex in time, sensitive, she looked at Sarath with dark eyes that were direct, without being aggressive, and said simply, "Hi, Commander Sarath. We've been expecting you." "You know my name," Sarath said. "We've been studying the Jareth for 9 years," the woman said. "We know a great deal about you." She paused. "I'm Director Amara Osei, Earth Unified Defense. Can I ask you something before we begin?" Sarath looked at her for a moment. "What are the 4 minutes?" Osei said. "Before you gave the approach order, you looked at the system for 4 minutes. You've never done that before. What did you see?" The bridge of the Jareth flagship went completely still. Sarath looked at Osei for a long time. "You have our internal records," she said quietly. "We have everything," Osei said. Not with pride, not with threat, simply as information offered cleanly. 9 years is a long time. We used it," she paused. "The 4 minutes. What did you see?" Sarath made a decision. It was not a tactical decision. It was something else. A recognition that the conversation she was in was not the conversation she had prepared for, and that the conversation she had prepared for was no longer available, and that this left her with a choice between refusing to engage and engaging honestly. She had not survived 61 claimings by refusing to engage with reality. "Something in the data," she said, "that I hadn't finished reading." Osei nodded slowly. "Yes," she said. "That's what we hoped." "Hoped?" Sarath said. "We spent a long time thinking about what this conversation would look like," Osei said. "We modeled a lot of versions. Most of them didn't go anywhere useful." She paused. "The ones that went somewhere useful all had one thing in common. They started with you noticing something you hadn't finished reading." She looked at Sarath steadily. "We built the something. The approach vector platforms," Sarath said. "Partly, but mostly the formation." Osei pulled up a display. The web formation, Sarath's own tactical data, reflected back at her. "The formation is designed to be readable. Not just functional, readable. We wanted you to look at it and understand that we understood how you approach, how you assess, how you decide. We wanted you to know before anything else happened, that you were not looking at something that didn't know you were coming." She paused. "We wanted the 4 minutes." Sarath stared at her. "You engineered a specific psychological response in an enemy commander," she said slowly. "We engineered a specific moment of genuine attention," Osei said. "There's a difference. We didn't want you afraid. We didn't want you uncertain. We wanted you actually looking," she paused. "Because what we have to show you requires someone who is actually looking." "What do you have to show me?" Osei placed something on her desk. A data storage device. She looked at it for a moment before speaking. 9 years ago," she said, "we detected the Jareth expansion pattern. We tracked it. We calculated the timeline. We determined that this conversation was likely to happen, and we had approximately 9 years to prepare for it." She looked up. "We used those 9 years to do 2 things. The first was build the web formation and the observation platforms, the things you've already found. The second was something different." She paused. "The second was figure out why." "Why?" Sarath repeated. "Why the Jareth expand," Osei said. "Not the stated reasons, territorial imperative, resource acquisition, the ideological framework your civilization uses to contextualize the claiming. The actual reason, the thing underneath that." She looked at Sarath directly. "We found it. It took us 6 years, and it was the hardest research project in our history, and we found it." The room was very quiet. "You're going to tell me," Sarath said slowly, "what the actual reason is?" "Yes," Osei said. Why? Because we think you don't know, Osei said. And we think if you knew, this conversation would go differently. What Osei explained over the next 2 hours was something that the Jareth's own historians had circled for centuries without reaching, a truth about their own civilization that was available in their own records and had never been assembled because assembling it required a perspective that could not exist from inside the thing it was examining 500 years ago. The Jareth had experienced a catastrophic resource collapse, a cascading failure of their home system's stability that had within 3 generations reduced a flourishing civilization to a population that survival mathematics said should not have made it. They had made it. Through the claiming, through expansion, through acquisition, through the relentless outward pressure that the survival crisis had created and that had not stopped. When the crisis ended because the civilization that survived had been shaped by the crisis into something that needed the pressure to function, the expansion had never been about territory. It had never been about ideology. It had been about the deep biological and cultural memory of a species that had nearly starved to extinction and had encoded at every level the imperative to keep moving, keep acquiring, keep expanding because stopping had once meant dying. The crisis was 500 years gone. The imperative remained. You are still running, Osei said quietly, from something that ended 500 years ago. 411 civilizations, not because you need them, because stopping feels like dying and it felt like dying once. And that feeling never left. The bridge of the flagship was completely silent. Sareth looked at Osei for a very long time. You cannot know this, she said. Finally, carefully. This is, you cannot know this. We can show you the research, Osei said. All of it. 9 years of it. We can show you where in your own historical records the evidence exists. Evidence your own historians have had access to and have not assembled because they were too close to see the shape of it. She paused. We're not asking you to believe us immediately. We're asking you to look. She pushed the data device across the desk. Everything is in there, she said. The research, the evidence, the sources, all Jareth, nothing ours. We didn't want you to be able to say we manufactured it. She looked at Sarath. We spent 9 years preparing for this conversation. This is what we spent them on. Not weapons, not strategy, understanding. Sarath looked at the device. She thought about 4 minutes in front of a tactical display, looking at something she hadn't finished reading. She thought about 411 claimings. The efficiency, the speed, the pride she had always taken in the quickness of it. In and out, clean and fast, no hesitation. She had never thought about why she found hesitation so intolerable. She had never thought about what it would feel like to stop. She reached out and picked up the device. I will look, she said. She stopped. I am not promising anything. I am saying I will look. That's all we're asking, Osei said. That's all we've ever been asking. Sarath looked for 8 days. She read the research. She had her historians read it. She had them check every source, every piece of evidence, every data point, every reference back to Jareth records that she then pulled and verified independently. It was accurate, all of it. The evidence was there, had always been there, in the records of the collapse, in the psychological studies of the generations that had survived it, in the cultural artifacts of the transition period, in the expansion doctrine that had been written in the decades after and that read, when you knew what you were looking for, not like the ideology of a civilization, choosing a path, but like the survival response of a species that had learned that stopping meant dying and had never unlearned it. On the 8th day, she called her senior staff. Together, she told them what she had found. She told them in the same direct way that Osei had told her, not softened, not framed, not managed, just the truth, offered to people she trusted to handle it. The room was quiet for a long time. Her first officer spoke first. If this is accurate, he said carefully, then we have been, yes, she said, for 500 years, yes. He was quiet. Then what do we do? Sarath looked at the display showing the Sol system. Blue, small, entirely unbothered, 9 years of preparation for a conversation that had lasted 8 days and had not fired a single weapon. "We go back," she said, "and we have a longer conversation." She paused. "A real one. About what we actually need. About what has driven us for 500 years and whether it still needs to." She looked around at her staff. "We have 411 civilizations that we have claimed. I want to know what we could build with them if we stopped claiming and started something else." She paused. "I don't know what the something else is yet. I think that's part of the conversation." She stood. "Send a message to Director Osei," she said. "Tell her we read everything." She thought for a moment. "Tell her she was right," she said. "And ask her when she has time, what she thinks 411 civilizations could build together if someone stopped running." She looked at the display one last time. "Tell her," she said quietly, "that I think I am ready to find out what stopping feels like."